sticks.
Oh,
The
that's
interim
awesome.
after, every
I
hole.
think
Can I
most
take
of
a
that's
picture?
gonna be, construction.
Yeah.
This was a lot of dirt work. You
Yeah.
know, we put both gas.
It's really
and
nice when they go to
electric.
like Oakdale or some of those all-day meets and things like that.
And tore up that
Those
entire
fields are up there. you
All
know.
right, so what's the app? So I keep telling my wife to do it, but
So hopefully it won't happen as bad.
what's the app
as-
Is
called?
Minnesota High School League Golf.
general area. It's like,
It's $90 and you can sign up like 3 or 4 people. Yeah, to get a whole year. Yeah.
Oh, that's okay.
Oh, yeah, you don't want to be late for a
Forgot the meeting 'cause
PUC
I was
meeting.
talking to Danny.
It's kind of like driving through my hometown.
You can stay for the work session though if you want. You don't have to, but if you want to. It's on the agenda items and that kind of thing, but it's up to you.
Then you can set up your school. So he's at least on the start menu. It's not the
Did you- were you
easiest to
talking about the
navigate,
payroll
but at least
and
you
stuff,
can go
pay
look
codes?
at
So
past
was he
events.
+1 or +2 through 1?
Plus 2 through 1. Will had a rough start on hole 1 too, so today,
Yeah.
boys
So
were.
Joey doubled 1 and he's leading?
Gotta give a little.
Oh
get a
no, there's
little,
the
I
evens
guess,
on the
right?
bottom. I didn't know if they played.
The more you look at it, the more complicated it gets
They haven't.
because of
I
all
wonder
the
if they've
different
teed off
rates.
yet.
So on,
Yeah, they may
The
have not teed
executive
off because
side,
their
you
tee
have to
times
have a
haven't
pay
started
code.
yet. So
Yeah, so
For every-
Joey Miles and, or whoever Joey's playing with
pay type
did not.
combined with the rate.
One was with
grouped in,
Will,
so
so
all
I
those
wonder
different
if he
rates that
forgot
the
to log
unions
his
have.
score.
So it might tie to one pay code on
Oh.
our side as far as the coding goes. We still have to set up those codes.
Yeah, Will parred 2.
It's-
Did a bad
Oh, that's
hole in
good.
8. Obviously 3 over. But par should make him better.
Yeah. We'll get there.
So do we need to call to order to work session?
yeah, you
or-
still call it.
Okay, call to order. We're not like,
We're not on TV.
oh, well, or maybe we are.
Recorded, but it's not aired.
Oh, okay, well, somebody could watch it.
You have to ask them. It doesn't show up on the regular YouTube channel. You have
Oh,
Yeah, you have to ask.
for the link.
Monday morning quarterback, because it's technically you can't make a decision. It's more just, hey, here's information. All right, Chris, you want to?
So, yeah, so I think, we wanted to kind of get together and talk about, what the commission wants to see as far as agenda items. And there's been a lot of things that we've talked about. We've talked about maybe a % of the budget. We've talked about, the fact that a lot of these things are approved during the budget process. Things like that. And so I did do a little research in just kind of looking at what has come before the commission in the last, for 2020 and 21. And I just formed a few questions to just kind of start the discussion as well. And, I think we all know anything over 175,000 has to come to the commission. We did shorten that up recently, I don't know, a few years back, but it used to be, we would come and ask to go out for proposals, and then we'd come again and ask for them to do the design, or they do the design, then we'd go and ask to come for bids, and then we'd bring it back once we had the bids for approval. And so we have kind of shortened that up, where it's just one time we come and ask for plans, specifications, and bid documents. So you approve that. And then once we get the bid award, then we come and ask for you to approve that. And so that has to happen. And that's actually Minnesota state statute. So I think we've kind of narrowed that down as much as we can. But I do have, the other thing that comes to meetings is we have consulting projects. So we may have a project that we need to get designed, but we don't necessarily know what the budget is. So we ask for the design. That will come as a consulting contract. And then once they design it and we get a couple quotes, then we'll bring it back for you to approve the actual construction of whatever it is that they designed. So that's another item that comes before you. And then the other thing is if we just have a capital project that's consulting and it's a project together, you know, we have a budget, but there's going to be some design. They're maybe going to go and get the construction materials through their process, and it's just a whole one big package. So in looking at what has come before you, in 2020, there was about 27 items, I think, that we're talking about that were either a consulting project or a capital project or an equipment purchase. It's not very many, really. If you look at, you know, in 2020, the average agenda item was about 6 items. I mean, some months we had 10, some months we had 3. And so of the 6 items, you know, 2.25 or 2.25 of them were actually capital items that came before you. Of that, there was probably 6 of them that were unbudgeted. So these were items that came up that we thought that were necessary for you to, you know, obviously it wasn't budgeted, so it wasn't approved in the budget process, so we needed you to approve those. In 2021, very similar. There were about 28 items of what we're kind of talking about. And same, the average agenda item in 2021 was about 6. January had 14, June had 3. Here, there was about 5 that were unbudgeted. We had 1 that was over budget. We had a couple change orders, and we had some advance funding, so it was in the 2022 budget, but due to supply chain issues and things like that, we brought that to the commission earlier instead of waiting for 2022. So I also looked at, you know, we talked about a percentage. And so, for example, the electric department is a $26.6 million budget. So even at 1%, we say, you know, 1% of that, it's $256,000. So nothing would be coming to you from the electric department because it's so high. Well, I take that back. 175,000 to 256 would be coming to you. On the flip side, then, we have district energy, where that's a $1.2 million. That would be 12,000. So almost everything would come. So that doesn't necessarily work out that great either. So that was just some background, I guess, I thought might be helpful in the discussion.
Was there any breakpoints, like on the equipment, for example? Was there a lot that was there much that was under 50? Or projects maybe that were under 50, you know, some threshold number?
Not a lot.
Okay.
The interesting thing about that is the things that came to you that were maybe under 30,000 were all unbudgeted items. So they were items that happened that we felt you needed to approve. You know, I guess, you know, one of the questions, you know, if we were to decide that, you know, one of the things you talked about was, well, if it's in the budget, we've approved it, we don't want to see it again. And that may be what you want. That's fine. But then I would ask, how do you want us to let you know what's happening? You know, what is the process? Because I think sometimes by bringing things to you, that gives us the opportunity to tell you what's happening. But is there a better way to do that?
Take me back to the beginning of why, I mean, I don't think our meetings are that onerous. I mean, what,
Well, I think it
What's the
was
problem we're
the
trying to
trucks were
solve?
the biggest thing,
Oh, yeah.
people were bringing trucks and, you know,
okay,
It was more along the lines of the capital improvement equipment that you were looking at, or the capital items you were looking at during the budget. Each department head would come in and say, hey, this is what we're buying this year, and you approving the overall budget, and then having to bring those items back again to get approval to purchase
Right.
something that's already been approved. in
Right,
the
to
budget.
me, it's always been like we're rehashing something where we had, all the experts coming and talking to us about it beforehand, and then we're rehashing it in short order in a meeting. It's never, to me, it was never about the time. It was,
right.
are we gonna take ourselves into a wrong direction on something we knew much more about when we had
Full
the
picture.
meeting?
Yeah.
So when I think about it, Chris, I think kind of just spitfiring three kind of things. So one, anything unbudgeted, then obviously yes. We need to address that. But I think there should be a threshold, and there probably already is, right? Do we have a
threshold.
threshold, whether it's $1,000 or $5,000? Do we have no threshold? Like if we have a
Well, we do, we kind of have an internal threshold, there's some consulting, for example, there was an industry that we needed to do a short engineering study on in order to be able to go to that customer and talk to them about it. It's probably about $2,500. We did it.
right,
It fell under our operations and maintenance budget.
right.
There's a lot of things through the operations and maintenance budget that does not come to you. There's some large items that don't come to you just because it's an emergency. In the power plant, when they're fixing a turbine or they're doing something, they need to do that immediately.
Right,
They
and that's
can't wait.
repairs and
Well, and in
maintenance,
theory,
right?
you're seeing that in the claims, so
Yeah.
if you're looking through the claims.
Yes, right.
So,
Right.
so kind of what my thought again is, so I give you two, right? Like whether we set a limit, which sounds like we kind of have, but not maybe defined. And then the third thing is these, actually maybe there's four-legged stool here. The third thing is capital projects that have been approved. If we're coming in for a change order, an over budget, a something in excess of what we approved, then certainly I think that should come across our desk. And then the fourth thing I would think that should come across our desk is something that we've already approved in the budget, but it is so large that yes, we should see another look at it. And, I've got a number of 50,000 in my head, but maybe that number should be more. I'm not sure. But those are kind of the four things I was thinking, right? So unbudgeted, to set a limit that if it's below this, you guys can do. You don't need to wait for us to approve, and it sounds like if you absolutely need to do it, you go and do it anyways. If it's going to dramatically exceed budget, or exceed budget, then come back before us or major change orders. And then the fourth thing is like, if we've already approved it in the budget, if it's one of those lower level things, whether it's 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever the number might be, do we need to rehash it, right? I want to see the $125,000 truck. I mean, I want to, even though I would still like to see that. But
Maybe instead of having to move and approve every single one of these things as a way of keeping us updated, that periodically is part of your report, it's just an update. We budgeted for these projects, and here we are in March, and we expected this one to get started, and it hasn't yet.
that's
And
more of
maybe that's not
a
something that
notification
requires our
rather than
approval, it's just
approval, or
a,
whatever we
Well, yeah,
have a term for that, don't we?
I think we can do
Receive and order
better
file.
with that as, identifying projects that are going on and the status of them, and, I look at the director's report
Could be part of
and
that.
what what you get, if there's things in there you don't want to see, we can pull those out or we can add more to it. It's fine. I just want to be sure that you guys are being informed on everything that's happening and that you don't get blindsided by anything, And, my concern is, you are, like Chris said to city council too, you are one of the only other commissions that has the authority to approve. You know, none of the other commissions have that authority. You're also one of the only ones that are paid. And so if we start having, 5-minute meetings, and the only thing that's on them is, the employee of the month.
Right.
And, maybe per diems, once a year, we get wage adjustments.
Bond
I-
items, they always have to
Yeah,
come, but
I mean,
yeah.
I don't want, what I don't want is that's, there's reason not to have you.
Right.
I
So,
think that's really important because,
so I think that goes along with the informing, but not necessarily looking for approval on those things that we've already that we've essentially already approved.
Mhm.
So then that, so what we call, we see those, right? It's receive an order, file
Yeah.
the
The claims
report,
at the end, yeah.
but we have.
Oh, yeah, just,
receiving
yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Like the
That's what
Katie
we do.
Sadie
That's the
Safety,
I
we
mean,
just received
yeah.
an order, filed the whatever report.
And that's what the director's report used to be until we moved to
Right.
consent as well.
So maybe it's the, maybe it's a
Maybe
separate
it's just an
capital
update by
report.
department as to where we're at in their budget. Not lengthy, you're not saying everybody has to come, but saying these were the improvement projects for the water department. This is where we're at in the budget. This one, we're gonna wind up having delay, that.
and do that as an agenda item rather than
Maybe.
in the director's report
Maybe,
that,
yeah.
because you're not gonna have any discussion if it's in the director's report
Right,
typically.
it's just gonna be
Right.
part of the
It's-
consent agenda,
Right.
right?
Yeah, unless you do that.
Right.
The director's report, I think I asked somebody before, I'm like, this doesn't mean anything to me that you did 15 whatevers.
Well,
Service
that's
calls.
my,
If it's at 15 and normally it's 55, then,
yeah,
having that highlighted would be useful, but
yep.
15 locations or
Yeah.
16 meters or
Mhm.
whatever.
Well,
And-
if you look at the director's report, there's a lot of statistics in there. And you're right, I don't know if, this is all prior to me coming.
That's been the form for a long time.
We added the energy services rebates, which I think is, I think that's good information. It tells you how many rebates, are going out to our customers. And, where we're at that. But yeah, if you were to, if you look at, the plant, treatment performance, it does, yeah,
I don't know
it
what a
doesn't really
million
tell
gallons of
you.
this or whatever,
I look at the financials.
Yeah.
You like the financials?
For
I
obvious
know, I used to too. Well, I still do, but.
Yeah, you better.
I still do. We added some information from the finance department. I mean, we could cut some of that out because there's some city stuff that she's just dropping it in. But, to let you know how people are paying, I think that's valuable information for you guys to see that, how the online payments are increasing. So, yeah, I think there's some things we can. But, when it talks about, we spent 519 hours on underground maintenance, would you
That's the
rather
right
know?
number, yay. If it's
yeah,
the wrong number, tell me.
Right.
I mean, there's no way we
Or
would.
would you rather know where we're spending that time, So, yeah, I'm open to any type of suggestions that you would have on this. All I want to do is make sure that, we get you the information that you really want to see.
Well, in the flip, I mean, I want to make sure that you feel like you're getting what you need from us as well. And I sometimes, not that much, but, once in a while I'll ask a question like, why are we approving this? Just for the sake of saying it out loud and putting it out there so that people don't know that we've read 75 or 100 pages before we got here. And so
Right,
sometimes we sit and
exactly.
make a motion and pass and it, I don't like to be too much of a performant, but the
No,
public does need to realize that, there's more to
There's
it.
some work
Yeah.
into this, yeah, and that.
And there are people that think we just come to this meeting and
And
approve
motion
and
second
leave,
pass.
and then next month come to this meeting, and that's, that they don't realize we get those reports.
So, yeah, so I go back and certainly take input of others. I will say, like, when I see something that we've previously approved in the budget, whether I remember or not, that's my first key. So I see Dan wants to spend $80,000. I immediately go down, was this a budget item? And it was approved previously for 85. Okay, I already feel good about it. Now I'll kind of skim through it and move on. So I'm wondering, that's why I keep going back to the, define what the numbers, define what the breakpoints are, but then inform, but not look for, you're not waiting on approval. So maybe that's the capital,
Well,
a
and
capital project report.
yeah,
or something like
most
that.
times we have plenty of time. I don't know, Dan, you can speak up too, but I think most times we have plenty of time to get the information to you. If we're in a situation where it's an emergency, it's nice to know that we would have the authority to do and bring that as an informational item. Doesn't happen that often that, most of the emergency stuff is going to be operation or maintenance, and that stuff is just kind of, what you should be seeing in that is in the budget, in the financials, that, the expenses are really close to where they were last year, or, they're a certain percentage of budget. So that the operation and maintenance is just really kind of moving along. And it's surprising how consistent that is really from year to year. Anyway, so, that stuff, I think you can feel comfortable that that's being taken care of. And like Nicole said, you are approving all of that through the claims. So you can always ask a question if there's something in the claims that you maybe want more information about. I can't tell you that I'll always know that at the meeting, but I certainly will, find out. I might know most of the time. I approve most of them, but, you talked about a threshold, and that 50,000 is relatively close to what we have here. Like I said, there's a few items that were under that, but they were unbudgeted, so they would have came anyway. The difference is, when you have that engineering, you might have a $250,000 project. Well, that's not a good example. You might have a $125,000 project where the engineering is $10,000, but the capital portion of it is, $115,000. So I would assume you'd want to see that, or not. Do you want to see the consulting, or do you just want us to do the consulting and then bring that project to you as long as it's a budgeted project?
Can I add, you guys seeing the consulting has one other benefit? A lot of this stuff, not everybody knows what it is, You work on some unique things, like RTU projects and IMUX and stuff like that. When you see the consulting, I try to bring enough in so that you know what we're talking about very generally and where we're working and why we're doing it.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably some value in that.
Yeah, the educational piece is probably good. And then just to say it out loud too, it's probably
Yeah, and
beneficial.
Oh, right, and it's,
And I'm not trying to, like, going back to it, I'm not trying to dispute the bringing it in. I'm trying to dispute the approving it a second. And I'm questioning. So when I say threshold, I talked about a couple thresholds. When I said, I think maybe $5,000 is maybe, I know I can think of what we used at Kraft, and now I think we used 5,000, we maybe moved it up to 10. But $5,000 for, something that is, regardless of whether it's budgeted or unbudgeted, not sure that we need to approve. And like you said, you've had things that are 2,500, 3,000, and maybe 2,500 is the number. I'm not sure. The 50,000 was more, if it's below 50,000 and we budgeted for it and we're within budget, then come to us and tell us that this is happening. We're moving down the road. It was a budgeted project. We're within budget, and receive an order filed that report. If it's over 50,000, and I'm just magically saying 50,000, if it's over 50,000, then we're looking for an approval as well. Or if it's over 5,000, but we're over budget, then we're looking for an approval for over. That's kind of where I was going. I certainly, like I said, I'm not, to think that we need to shorten these meetings would be ridiculous. Outside of when we were going through the lawsuit stuff, that was the only time that it's like, wow, we've been here for an hour and a half. But, I mean, in general, we're done within 45 minutes, and if not much sooner. So what I'm just saying is like, what I keep kind of going back to is just, I don't want to force you to rehash to earn our approval on something that we've already approved. When it's
So for
in maybe a
example,
bridge, kind of
let's-
5 to 50.
let's say we had, we had a consulting, so for example, we had a consulting for the ATAD motor control. Now, we're gonna assume that this was a budgeted item. In this particular case, it wasn't. But the engineering was $14,950. The actual project, the construction of it, was $66,000. Okay, so would it be acceptable for you for us to just engage that consultant to do the design of it for the $14,950? We bring a agenda item that's a receive and order file to tell you we're working on this project. We have such and such consultant working on it. And then what comes to you is the $66,000 that is the actual project itself.
You're kind of saying if the total project price can be broken down into parts that were
Yes.
less than 50, do you want us to bring the?
Yeah, because we have a lot of those where we get a consultant, and it may only be $10,000 or $15,000 to do the design,
But
but
is-
the actual project, when you're ordering the RTUs and things like that, we're doing the consulting right now, but the actual project's gonna be $75,000, $80,000, It's a budgeted item, but I think it's important that,
So it's part of a larger project. The larger project would come before, like using thresholds would come
Yeah.
before us, but does the smaller individual.
but we
component
would just
parts-
do, the consulting we would be able to do the consulting,
Well,
and
well,
so the most that, what I think about it is, if you were to decide, we don't want to do this project, how much money are you out? You would be out the consulting.
right. So in that case, in those kinds of situations, typically when those come in front of us, there's also a little bit of discussion somewhere in the blurb of it being part of a $180,000 project.
Yes, it is.
Right? So to me, if the grand project, again, I'm just spitfiring, but if the grand project is larger than whatever threshold we set, if we were to set a threshold, then yes, then we maybe approve it.
We should have, that we,
Because, again, it's the gateway to the larger project.
Okay, so that's what we're doing now. So we're bringing the consulting to you. We're talking about, what the budgeted item is for the whole project. So you'll see the consulting, and then you'll also see the project itself.
Right, and I think that would be fine. I think
so
really,
potentially if we're saying that the threshold is 50,000, anything that's gonna cost more than 50,000, we would want to be asked to approve anything related to that.
right, so to me, the things that drop off on the secondary approval are, Nate wants to do $15,000 worth of server work that we've already approved in a budget. Somebody wants to buy a $40,000 truck that we've already approved in the budget. The bigger projects that require engineering are still, for the most part, going to show up.
Okay.
Yep. And I think that's
Okay.
important for that information to come out too.
Agreed.
Because Dan may get bids that say, you know what, this one's a little bit higher, but they're also gonna do this for us, and
Right.
it could come back questioning, why didn't you pick the lowest bid here? So, but there's reason that we talked about
But
it.
it would chop off, again, not the information. Hey, we've decided, we've got 3 bids on this truck. We've decided to go with this company. It's gonna come in May as part of a receive and order file report.
Okay.
As opposed to, do you approve us purchasing this truck or this
So
thing
really,
that Nate wants to do?
vehicles, equipment, things like that,
Yeah, that's more the stuff. It's not the project things.
Tools, it's
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Anything under 50,000,
Well, and again, I'm
we'll
just,
bring it in, we would bring it in as, within the director's report as a,
and maybe not just, like, I could even see a separate
Just a separate
capital
receipt.
report. Like a
Capital
Yeah.
expenditure update.
a capital expenditure update or,
Or
like,
do you
I don't know
want
what we
the,
name it, but
You want like the vehicles, standard vehicles, not specialty trucks where you gotta buy the chassis and then build the body.
well, those are gonna be well
They're
over
gonna be
50,
over
right?
But I'm talking,
50,000.
your F-150 or whatever.
Yeah, like,
Want to toss in the consent agenda, or do you not even want to see it?
no, I think we still maybe see it so we know what's going on.
It would be like a receive and order file, so you're like, you know, hey, here are budgeted items
Right.
under 50,000 that we
Right,
have
right, right.
purchased, or
Right, that literally could be the name of the report. Budget items under 50,
under
under
50,000.
50, under 50,000.
They were pre-approved.
I don't, yeah, I don't
It's
know.
gonna be, it's gonna be agenda item.
Yeah.
It's gonna be the same as what
Oh,
it is now.
that's fine. It's just the
because there
double
isn't
approval.
hardly
Yeah, but
any.
if you put all the departments on one report, instead of
Yeah.
having each department bring every truck,
Yeah,
you know.
so it's
But
an
the-
easier, just, hey, this is what we've spent, and you don't, again, you don't have to spend time explaining it, it's just, hey, here's the report, you have questions, yes or no, and then, yes, we receive an order
Yeah,
file,
There's really,
but you have already spent the
what
money.
I'm saying is
Yeah.
there's only gonna be one
Oh, yeah.
a month,
fair
anyway.
enough.
Because
Most
we
of the
don't,
time, yeah.
yeah, we don't buy that many
Trucks, yeah.
trucks. Or equipment, you know.
So then
I mean, I can't,
So it
yeah,
all
I
comes
can
back
do
to, are
that.
we, Chris, in your mind, are we just better off just
Having them on,
Leave it the same.
leaving it the same and just
It's really not that big of a deal
reapproving
to-
something we've already approved if it's a low dollar amount?
I guess what would be nice is to be able to put that equipment in a consent agenda item.
like in the director's report, or a separate
Or in the
report.
director's report, that it's just, you know, maybe it's the last page of the report that just says, you
Little
know,
expenditures or.
this is who we bought it from, how much it was, and, you know, and then all of the project stuff still comes to you.
So then it's just defining, I mean, obviously we probably do that in a meeting, but defining the thresholds then that something shows up in the director's report other than coming before us.
It's gonna be.
And if it's one or two items, then that's.
You know what, it's gonna be like it's gonna be, and just even looking at this, well, that was a non-budgeted, yeah, it's gonna be like the trucks, it's gonna be like the, VAC, what do they call that? The Vactron,
Even that was.
well, that was 60,000, so that would come.
well, pickups are getting
Air
expensive.
compressor, there was an air compressor for 18,000.
The cleaning the water tower, the,
Yeah.
would fall in that list.
Okay.
right?
So it is
The-
some projects, not just
Well-
equipment and,
Again, I
Maintenance.
think it, to me, it all comes, okay, I'd be, if we wanna just leave it as is, I'm not losing any sleep.
You're okay, to
Sleep
keep
over
talking, you're fine.
What I think is we define a threshold, and it's not about whether it's a individual thing or a project, but it's a threshold.
okay,
So if we've pre-approved the $10,000 for the water tower and it comes up at 9,500, then that can fall in that report. If we pre-approved Nate to do some $5,000 security or $12,000 security thing because we feel it's a need and we've actually budgeted for it specifically, then okay. But if we're buying a 52,000, if 50 is the number, if we're buying a $52,000 vehicle, then it comes back for approval. If we have a project that has 12 components and all 12 of those add up to more than 50,000,
okay.
even if it's like $3,000 of it, you know, then
Then it should all come.
it should
And
should
and
come
it's a
across.
report that is after the fact, right? So,
The report on the stuff that is below
yeah.
can be after the fact.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
because it's a more, you're informing us.
Yep.
You're not looking for our approval, but you're still looking for our approval on unbudgeted items, things that are over budget, things that are over a certain
Yep,
cost.
yep.
Plus, anything that, I mean, if you feel more comfortable bringing something to the commission, even if you're not required to, you know, because you think it's something you want to just cover yourself and make sure we're clear about, or for
Right.
some reason, go ahead. you
For
know.
sure,
Nobody's gonna,
for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I'd say that I disagree, it'd be nice to have projects come through, though, just to see what's happening. Because there's usually there's always multiple bids, or maybe if we're not going with the lowest bidder on some reason.
That we would always bring to you.
Okay,
I would always, yeah, I would
So
always
you're
bring to
saying
you.
you'd like to see the water tower back,
well,
even,
yeah, I mean,
I'm
awareness.
not disagreeing, I'm
Yeah.
just pointing out, that's
No.
what you mean, it's because it's a project, that would be.
Yeah,
But we'd still be made aware in the report. We just wouldn't be made aware as an
Yeah.
agenda.
but then the other part is the public aware of what's happening too? If it's not, if it's approved as a consent agenda, they won't see it or hear it unless they get the report.
Or drive.
Or try.
You know, and that's kind of the purpose of this, is to get everyone's feedback on really what you want to see. It's not that the system was broken in any way,
No.
shape,
Yeah.
or form. It's, you know, on the council side, it was like we were asking to apply for grants and then asking them to accept the grants after the fact. Sometimes even though we meet twice a month, sometimes a deadline just comes up and we need to apply for a grant. So it was asking council really what they wanted to approve. And on our side, you know, we have one person that does all our vehicles and equipment in January. And council was like, no, if we approve it in the budget, unless it's over budget, you know, we don't need to see those items again, because they're in the budget. But
So they are doing all of the equipment?
so we bring
vehicles?
all the equipment.
All
so
at
we-
once.
All
They
at
do
one
it-
time.
they're
We do it out of
different.
one
Yeah,
fund.
okay.
Because
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
one department.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's through equipment revolving.
Yeah.
So then,
But, and you don't have to mirror the council. You
No.
can
Because I
set-
think we're very different than the
Yeah,
council.
absolutely
You know, with the,
different, yeah.
with what's being brought to you is very different than what the council sees. You know, it's,
so then what about this? What about if again, I'm just throwing stuff out, see what sticks. What about everything stays on the agenda as it would? So we're purchasing a $40,000 truck. It appears on the agenda, so we might discuss it, but it appears as a receive and order file on the agenda rather than approve. So everything would still be the same, just whenever is something falls inside one of, you know, that special category. Again, which I'm, like, I throw out more than 5, so less than 5, do it, don't necessarily need to know about it. Let us know if you want. More than 5, but less than 50, and we've approved in the budget, inform us on as an agenda item. We could discuss it if we want, but it's a receive and order file that's not looking for approval. More than 50, then we're back to approve. So then the public knows about it, but you weren't waiting for our approval before before Chris went and signed the purchase order to do the water tower.
So the receiving order filed could all be compiled into one.
Well, it could, but if we want to give it its due, and if there's only going to be 1 or 2 items on it, then
Oh,
let them
that's
be
right.
agenda items. Right? And then let them come still in front of the public. And we discuss
So
it.
whatever it is we decide here, how do we know that that's what it is? Like, is it written down somewhere, or?
So you
10 years from
technically-
now, when we have when
I think
nobody
we-
here
I
is
think
still
we'd have
on
to
the
be an
commission.
agenda item to define
Yeah.
a
to
new
define a threshold.
capital policy,
Yeah.
right?
We put
Okay.
together a policy for that, bring that item, you would set.
But again, if we just leave it the same, that's fine. The only reason it kind of got brought up was the concept that we were approving things that we've already approved and kind of, in some cases, rehashing them, which is okay, but
yeah. I mean, certainly it isn't from staff's perspective, because staff will bring whatever you want to the commission. I mean, they will bring however you want to see it at the meeting. We just, you know,
I just feel bad, like, reapproving something I've already approved when it's a low dollar amount, lower dollar.
yeah. Well, you know, yeah. As long as, you know, you remember, you know, what the purpose of it was from the agenda, because
Right.
you're approving something, you know, we have our budget meeting in November. You could be approving something in September that's been a year ago.
Right, which why I
You
think
know.
it's still good to inform us,
Right,
right?
right.
Which I think Seth makes a very good point. Like, I honestly, I'm not sure we gave more than 5 seconds to discussion of cleaning the water tower in it's such a small amount in the grand scheme of the budget. I don't really even recall us discussing that we were
Right.
going to clean the water tower. So great that we saw it, because that's been my
Because
list
people
for a
have been
while,
ta-
right?
Yeah, people have been talking about
Right.
it, and so and that's how I feel that's a way to inform
Right.
you all of what's,
So I think maybe it's good to keep it on the agenda, then the question just becomes, do we set a threshold that requires an additional approval?
But you're saying to have each item,
Well, just like it normally would be.
Yep, wouldn't change, but it
Wouldn't
would be
change.
receive an order file versus.
Right, receive and file,
Approve.
for each separate item.
right, like it
would
would be
just
today.
be,
Like
yeah,
today,
it would
instead
be.
of the
Dan
motion,
Dan presented Sadie, Safey, Katie, right? Did I get it right?
Yep.
Probably first time ever. And that was receive order file. We weren't approving that, or did we?
So for example.
No, we just received an order file.
Receive an order file.
Yeah.
So-
A, it would have been,
Like the
the
water
water
tower.
tower would have been, instead of
Receive an
being
order
a
file.
motion to approve it, we could have technically already started the work and
Yeah,
just. you
we
would
made
be
a motion
receiving-
to receive an order file that,
And it's just
Exactly.
a recap of basically what it was. This is how much it was. This is what the budget was.
Yeah.
Estimated
This
start
was-
time
this was
is
planned
such
and
and
it's happening
such.
as we
Yep.
all wanted it to do. And
so then the question is, what's the number?
Yeah, because pickups are expensive.
Well, they
For
can
more
be.
than
Now they
50.
can.
Yeah, now they can be, yeah, for sure.
And that's, that's something you, you as commissioners can kind of mull over, and what I think probably will, what'll happen is kind of regurgitate, summarize the meeting, kind of some of the thoughts, and send that out to all the commissioners. And you can mull it over, and we'll probably bring it at the next meeting. Hey, here's, what is the threshold, so we can set that policy up and how we want.
And maybe in the director's report, we can have our whole capital list and just things that have been purchased, and so then we can look ahead and say, oh, this may be coming up,
As far as like the budget?
Yeah.
Put the budget items
Yeah.
listed?
Yep.
Mhm. Okay.
So,
I don't know how big that list is, if it's massive, then it maybe doesn't make sense, but.
Yeah.
If the capital budget is 2 pages.
Yeah, I think we could do that,
do like your, let's still see it, let's still have it out in the open, not buried in
just
a-
2022 capital
Yeah,
projects or
approved
something
for
like that.
2022, here's our list of things, so, it should coincide with what
Yep.
we're approving, and
Yep.
some things maybe get skipped, and maybe there's a discussion, why didn't we purchase that in February?
Sure. Do you want to, is your intention to bring, I'm just trying to think what the agenda item's going to look like, that they would approve the policy next month? So do we want to bring it
The following, whatever.
with
however long it
fill-ins or
takes us.
something? Or, so you decide what you think your at the meeting, then we decide, because we can't make any decision here.
No,
So at the meeting, you could
Approving the threshold.
the
if-
threshold,
if that's
decide
the
what you
direction
want
you
it to
wanna
be,
go.
have discussion about it, and then, we could leave that blank in the,
but you've done the research, do you have, and kind of as preparation for this meeting, do you have a number in your head? Like, we used 50, right?
yeah.
does that feel right, or do you think it should go higher or lower?
75, I think, yeah.
Right. And then there's a lower side too, is that 1, is it 2, is it 5? For the,
For the
sounds
other
like it's been maybe
item.
2,500.
You mean things that get expensed?
They,
versus
no,
budget?
no, not,
Oh.
they still
Well,
get,
like for
still
just
capital
the
projects, they just don't require,
Anyway,
they don't
yeah,
require
just do it.
approval, just it's do
Well,
it.
more I think the things that we talk about is like some of these smaller consulting contracts where
Right.
we need to find out if something is even a viable project.
Mm-hmm.
And so instead of being, and we have a consulting budget in the operating, there may be $20,000 in there that'll cover different consulting, to have the ability to just be able to do that and say, well, this isn't a project yet, but it could be, for example, I'm looking at maybe a solar installation somewhere, but I don't really know if it's economically feasible. We just kind of want to get some ideas. There's no project associated, it might only be, $3,000 to $4,000. To be able to, that consulting money has already been budgeted, to be able to just use that money. And then if there is a project, obviously there would be a design, and then there would be a project that would come to you, or it would be put in the budget for next year, that type of thing. That's more what I'm thinking when I'm talking about the small items.
Right.
They're,
So would 5,000 cover that?
I think so, huh?
But 2,000 probably wouldn't.
No.
It's amazing how fast, if you're gonna do a little bit of field time and stuff, you'll get 5,000.
But that's okay. Then it's over 5,000, let's
That's
discuss
fine.
it.
Yeah, then it comes to you.
Right. It's not a mini thing anymore. So then, so 75 would be seeing less, so I guess,
And that's
I
something.
guess kind of a 5 and 50 is kind of what I'm thinking.
Okay.
And we can look, I mean, she can get some data together and
Yeah.
send it out, just like, hey, looking at the items.
Well,
this
yeah,
is
what would
the
fall
average.
I
in
think that's a
the,
good idea, yeah.
I mean, just, in looking at what's here, there's, 60,000, 107, and then we've got an 18,000, which was that air compressor.
Right.
Which that probably would just be on a,
we do,
and
we're
then
doing an air compressor, receiving our file. Air.
I probably, of the 27, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 of them are over 50,000. The rest are under,
Okay. And then some of those are unbudgeted as well.
yes.
So we would see those
And those
anyways.
you would see anyway, yep. So that was for 2020, for 2021, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12.
That
12 that
over.
are over 50,000.
Yeah, so then, we'll end up with probably 1 to 2 a month that
That you'll
fall in
approve.
that or that we approve, and probably 1 to 2 a month that will fall in that
Receive
kind
and
of
order file.
mid-zone of, you gotta let us know about it, but it's already in the budget, so thanks for letting us know. Maybe we'll have a little more discussion, remind us about this, and, all that stuff, but.
And I think it'll help, the utilities out, because I mean, you do only meet once a month, so it's always hard, like, oh, we have to wait for, the
Yeah.
approval.
Yep.
This gives us a little more flexibility, within the thresholds at the end of the
Right.
day to just the day-to-day
Well, it's
operation.
gotta be budgeted, it's gotta be under.
Yep.
Gotta be not, it's gotta be the lowest bid,
Yep.
like, all these other
Yeah, all the things that
All the
are,
things.
check boxes.
Yeah.
Right, I feel like Nate's gonna have projects that, I always go back to Nate, I feel like Nate comes to us all the time with these projects that he's
Four switches.
put in a budget, and he's like, this server, this software.
well,
this-
yeah, and the thing about his is, if you look at 1% of his budget, it's 7,000.
Yeah.
So
And-
it's
yeah,
like.
and I don't think you can use, but
Yeah.
I wanna know about Nate's stuff, I want that reminder, but I just don't feel
Yeah.
like he has to wait for us to approve it
Okay.
on something that's 10 grand,
Okay. No,
if we've already approved it.
Yeah, as long as it's in the budget.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's fair, and that's good information.
And then still tell us, like, still come, Nate, come here, talk.
And then as far as the budget goes, with this, you're still comfortable with the process that we have now.
The budget process?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think our budget process is
Meeting with
great.
each of the.
Okay.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay.
All right.
Get that drafted up.
I just want the cookies to be there.
Huh?
We used to have cookies.
Fair enough.
No, please.
I'm sorry, but Brian used to bring us cookies, Chris.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Oh, to the budget meetings.
You remember we used to get
Budget
They always
meetings,
used
yes.
to,
The
I'm
big
just
cookies,
joking.
Hy-Vee
They always
cookies.
used to bring those Hy-Vee cookies, and then
I thought
and
you
then
were
when
saying
Brian
all the
left, we
meetings.
no longer did we have cookies. Chris is just too healthy.
We're just too frugal.
I will bake some stuff for us. We'll get some.
That came out of
Ask
Brian's
City Council
pocket.
could call
every
my
once in a
daughter
while
and
why we
commission
exist.
cookies.
I mean, we make some pretty important decisions with
Yeah,
meeting
I mean,
cookies
that
at the
would-
budget meeting.
Fair enough.
I'm just
Okay.
giving you a hard time on this.
Do we give
Don't
you enough
bite.
feedback or input from a
Les says the
policy
same thing at
standpoint?
council.
I'm not complaining that anything's going wrong,
I-
but sometimes I feel like we
I
just
don't even
kinda
want the cookie. I just
follow
think it's
along.
funny. It's like, budget meeting, go get my.
I think we've got the regulations with the attorney, and I think there's some things that are gonna start coming out of that we'll have some discussion on. you know, I still want to get that, the septic system and things like that to you, so. But yeah, I think, you know, if I have a question, answer it, so, yeah.
And I think in general, like when we're setting thresholds, lower is better. You can always adjust that.
Agree.
I think we just talked ourselves into the exact same process we've always had.
Pretty close, except for
Very
the
close.
receive order file.
Yep,
Yeah.
receive an order file instead
Yeah.
of approving,
I mean, it's-
which is fine.
Gives them the
Gives
go-ahead.
them the go-ahead
Flexibility.
and the
It
flexibility.
definitely
Right.
does, yeah. You know,
And I agree, it does
And
seem
then
kind of
Dan
insulting
doesn't
to
come in
ask
here
us for a
sweating
new truck
bullets,
and
are
then
we
we have
gonna
to come and
approve
ask
his
us for
$30,000
reason to buy the new truck.
project? And question him when we've already approved it once.
Yep.
Right?
Questions?
As easy as possible. Oh, okay. Well, no, I think
Shannon,
we have
what-
enough. Any
Do
questions?
you have any additional thoughts? You've kind of been like a vice.
sure if you were still on camera when I watched.
We're not.
Not
Well, we are,
recorded,
but
but
It's not live, but
it's not live, it's just taped.
No, I agree with the whole budget. Thought, like, we've already approved. I do like. And public.
that's an excellent point. Okay.
Get that
And I
taken care
think, you know, we can also bring maybe some, one things we don't do is enough of, I think, is bring, when a project is complete, to just kind of bring it to
Oh,
you and talk about it.
Recap.
Yeah, recap and maybe show you, you know, how it came in and, you know, just even some pictures of how it turned out and things like that,
I would
so,
love that.
you know.
We could just go out there with cookies and have a ribbon cutting
Oh.
on
There you go.
on everything.
I
All right,
know,
I should have
we
brought
get-
out the
We
cookies.
want to
I'm
do the
sorry.
tours yet too.
Tour with cookies.
Yeah, we will do the tours, so, we'll get those set up when it
Look at
gets
the
a
new
little nicer.
SCADA.
Yeah, we haven't done a tour
Switches that
for
we put
ever,
over.
right?
Yeah,
I've never had one.
yeah,
Shannon-
so,
Shannon,
you know,
did you
we'll
get a
work
tour?
on that,
Of the
Everything?
of everything.
the facilities.
But Marilyn, did you?
No,
Yeah.
we were going to, and then the.
COVID hit.
hit.
COVID hit, yep.
Yeah, let's do a tour.
Well, and then we were going through directors.
Unspecified
Yeah, you were
virus
going
from
through
unknown
directors too,
location.
yeah. So,
Yeah, this
so
is-
yeah, we'll,
How
we'll
long
do-
have you been director now, Chris?
the end of May, it will be 3 years.
Really?
Yeah, time's gone fast.
So that's probably double the amount of time that.
Yeah, I think you've
Any-
made a record of
any
the
other
last,
director's
the
been
last
in
10
since-
years, right?
Yeah, the
So
last
using our
6
ratios and
anyway.
percentage, the 3 years over the 10 versus.
We don't need to adjourn. We just need to go. Because Linda, you came in with who was the director when you
Pat,
was Pat the director?
pretty sure.
And then Pat left, and the guy from Michigan. What was his name?
Wisconsin,
Or
Jim
Wisconsin?
McCabe.
Jim. Yeah. And then Pat came back.
Then Pat came back, then
And
we
then-
had Rod.
Right.
Well, then Brian, then Rod.
Oh, we had that guy from South Dakota that never even made a meeting. He didn't even come to work. He
was that?
accepted it and then,
Oh, remember we used to, oh God,
About
spent a
a-
lot of time interviewing director candidates.
I don't remember that. We had someone who accepted, and then we never even came.
everyone's from, huh?
Yep.
Yes, before Rod. Yeah,
Would've been like the June before.
yeah.
Were we excited about somebody? who
Yeah, I
supposed to
mean, he
come
was
in?
from Watertown, South Dakota, I think.
Before Rod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Barely ringing a bell.
Accepted before
Brian was
Rod
before Rod.
and just never
Never came.
came.
He
Did
ended
he
up-
get a better job offer?
Second choice.
No, I think he decided to stay where he was.
Oh,
I
okay.
think he
I
ended
think
up.
he used it to get a.
Leverage, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Leverage of the position he had.
Oh, did we go out for lunch with him at Green Mill?
Yes.
And he was
I
really,
didn't go, but yeah, you might have.
and he was really kind of a slick talker, and yeah, I remember him.
Was him.
Yeah, I kind of remember him now.
Probably the biggest motion that I supported that I regret is the proposal by a former director to paint all the trucks white or half the trucks white. And I remember thinking, there's something wrong with this.
I think it was
This
just to
this
buy
isn't-
white trucks going forward.
buy-
not-
I
not
don't
to
know,
paint
there was
them
something
all.
about that. I'm like,
Buy white trucks.
this is
yeah.
not,
Ah, wasn't that
Because he
Pat?
said the
No,
building
that was Rod.
it was Rod.
Wanted the white trucks? I
Yeah.
thought Rod went the reversal of the white trucks.
he
Or was that
wanted-
you who went the
That was us,
reversal?
the reversal.
So Chris did the reversal of the white truck.
Wanted the white
Yeah,
trucks, yeah.
because
And I
it saved
remember
us
thinking, yeah.
$5,000 per truck or something like that. It was, I mean, it was a very small
Yeah.
amount, but
Gosh, gosh. Well, congratulations for being here so long.
Well, yeah, it's a branding issue for the city too.
It's made the personnel committee so much easier.
I don't know, but yeah, I remember thinking, "Oh, why didn't I say something?
I think we agreed to the large trucks, the ones, the big boom trucks as being
White,
white, but the
everything else.
everyday trucks are blue.
Blue now.
Yeah.
So,
That'll work.
Some pretty heavy stuff going on.
Yeah.
I'll put that in my memoir as,
yeah.
my memoir
Big
as a
decisions at the end of the day.
my days as a PUC commissioner.
What do you get? Another year after this?
I think I'm done in December
December?
this year.
So you're gonna take over next?
I think it should be, I'm not a party.
Oh, yeah, maybe that's true. Yeah, because
Beth, you're apparently
I'm not far behind either.
Get in the chair and, just feel good in it for 6 or 8 years.
Oh, that's a good point.
fair enough. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.